This week, I'm so excited for the guest that I have in the grind seat today. As you can see, I have an individual that really knows about the grind. I know it sounds like I say that every time in every episode, but I really bring guests on here that really know the grind. And so the person that I have in the grind seat definitely knows it. Let me just kind of give you a little intro. I'm going to try to do the best I can, but my guest is a multiple award winner for her professional and community service, from improving organizational culture and practice while developing managers, teams, and the next generation of leaders in today's youth. In addition, my guest has provided mentorship, trained for JROTC programs, as well as at-risk schools. Her service focuses on mindset, which began in 2003, where she joined the United States Air Force. Wow. She has proudly served our country during peacetimes and global conflict. She has won the Non-Commissioned Officer of the Year award in 2019 as leadership skills, process improvements, and program development expertise stood out within her organization. As a migrant from West Africa, she is an organizational development leadership consultant, a trainer, executive coach, a professional speaker. This award-winning executive trainer aims to train and develop leaders and teams to improve performance, resiliency, workplace culture, emotional intelligence, and diverse talent. She is also, I should say, a certified coach and speaker by the #1 motivational speaker in the world, our very own Dr. Aisha Thomas. And most importantly, she's a mother, she's a sister, she's a daughter. So without further ado, let me introduce to my Behind the Grind family, my guest, Aisha Thomas. Welcome to Behind the Grind. How are you?
So good. Thank you for having me. Such an honor to be here. Thank you. Thank you.
Really, it's such an honor for you to be here on our program. You know, I've been waiting to get you on the program. I've asked you, a while back, but your schedule has been extremely busy. But we have worked out a way for today for us to meet. And before I get into that, when I'm reading through your bio and reading through all the things that you've done, there's so many things that I didn't even realize you'd done. But most importantly, I want to just thank you for your service, the service that you've done for our country. And all the things that you've done. So with that being said, I really want to thank you for serving our country and those that you serve. So with that being said, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. And yes, it's been busy. It's been crazy, just wearing so much hat. I'm also in school. So I'm about to wrap up my last semester, my master's program. So it's a lot, but I'm glad we're finally here. And I'm again honored just to be here to have this conversation with you today.
Awesome. I felt I left out one thing. You're a fellow podcaster as well, and you have a dope podcast that I get a chance to check out from time to time. If I'm not mistaken, it's called the Leader Set Trend podcast. Is that what it's called?
Set trends. And again, the goal is to be that leader that does set trends, does things differently, but it's all within the scope of pushing that organization, leaders, team members towards things that are going to benefit that space and that environment. So yes, Leader Set Trends podcast. Yeah. So check it out.
Yeah, there's some nuggets that you drop there and some conversations that you have. So any of my listeners, if you just love leadership and want to grow in that space, this is definitely a podcast that you want to listen to. Now, let's talk about your weekend. Past weekend, you got a chance to speak on, I should say, on the stage, the virtual stage, all of that, because we're doing all kinds of things these days, virtually and in person. But you got a chance to speak on one of the stage for the #1 motivational speaker, as we mentioned, the Game Changers. Can you tell us a little bit about that and what your role was and what you spoke about this past weekend?
Yeah, within the Game Changers program, it's really a program, although it says speaker development, it really is helping coaches, trainers, hosts, those that want to use communication as a means to connect with an audience. You have individuals who want to share a story. You have individuals who have some type of expertise, and their goal is to support that audience, whoever it is, from youth all the way to, again, organizations, adults, trauma survivors, just a multitude of audiences and populations to, again, transform them. So as a coach within the program, we really help them navigate how to do the business of speaking, help them
Right.
really work on effective communication skills, how to package a story, how to effective deliver a message, just the art of utilizing communication and building that business to really get in front of that audience. So this weekend, I was able to speak on the topic of the brand beyond the stage, because again, a lot of people are like, I want to be on stage. But for me, there's so many different
Right.
pockets of individuals, how you show up as a, again, using, I don't want to say as a speaker, but using communication. So you have those that are,
Right.
hey, I want to be on the stage, I'm in that motivational sector. But you have individuals who are trainers. I fit more in that trainer category. I teach. I like to be in groups. I like to be in spaces where, like, I have a adjunct professor role that I'll be doing later on in the year. So I like to be in that teacher trainer role. I just love being in those spaces where I can transform a group, an organization, a team. So I fit in that pocket where you have individuals who are like amazing at hosting or amazing at coaching. I do coaching as well. So you have some people who are touching a multitude of pockets. So I was talking about, okay, I know the stage and doing that keynote is a goal, but let's talk about the other opportunities that you have beyond the stage, where you can work with a team, where you can work with a or coach an executive, where you can build a curriculum and work with the university. Some things that I've been able to do. So just really allowing those that are maybe aspiring to look at the bigger picture of how they can again use their expertise to impact the masses. So just a great opportunity. And then you had individuals who went through the program who graduated as well. So shout out to them for going through that cohort, that 3 months, and putting the work in to now get to the other side of, now it's time to take that message and continue to build and grow.
It's a fascinating program. I had an opportunity. Actually, that's how we actually met, through that program. And it's a fascinating program. You're right. When you start a program like that, you may just think, oh, it's only the stage. But there's so many facets of speaking and in different spaces. Like you said, some people aren't just keynote speakers. Some people do multiple things. Maybe they're just selling their business, is able to get on stage and talk about their products, their services. It's so many things that you learn. And again, you're learning from some of the best in the game when it comes to speaking, and you're one of those coaches, and I'm so proud of you. You're actually one of the ones that when individuals come through, you're actually giving them critiques, you're giving them feedback, and some things, that some secrets that we talk about, we put them through the reps, right? And you put them through the reps, and you get a chance to coach them through their process. But at the end, many of them probably always come back and thank you for how you've helped them polish their speech, polish what they're trying to say, try to articulate what they're trying to say, to really communicate the message that they want their audience to receive. And so shout outs to what you guys are doing there. You guys are definitely just continually to level up in that space. And you're one of those individuals that's helping to level up that program. So shout outs to you about that. But before so you're into speaking, but let's go back a little bit, right? I mentioned earlier in your bio that you're a migrant from West Africa. How did you get from being a migrant from West Africa to place you are today, and a place where you're in leadership and you're speaking? How did that happen?
Yeah, it's so interesting because I like to tell people all the time, like, leadership wasn't something I aspired to do. Being a migrant and just transitioning from one country, from one culture. And I love these conversations because when I do diversity, equity, and inclusion conversations, and I really want those individuals in team environments and organizations to expand their minds and look at people outside of just seeing color, skin, or sex, or name, or what their attire is, looking beyond the person. I love these conversations and worldview. I share my story and I talk about my military experience, and I talk about my migrant experience and travel experience, and how that has allowed me to see the world differently. And now it allows me to look and see people differently because their stories give me a peek into who they truly are versus the external. So for me, as a migrant coming to the US, again, it's like a totally different culture shock. You are literally transitioning from how a certain language, a certain dress, attire, just a whole nother, from one culture, and how you were, pretty much saw the world into a whole nother world that you're unfamiliar with, and navigating that was pretty hard. So navigating it for me became introversion. navigating that for me became just adapting to the environment. Navigating it for me became followership rather than leadership. So that adapting that I was doing, and it's so interesting because there's a lot of work that I do with psychometric tools. I know you're familiar with that too,
Mm.
with assessments like the DISC and values and attributes and all these other assessments out there, strength finders and all that. You start to learn, like, adaptability and not being authentically who you are. A lot of people do that as a tool for survival. So I was in survival mode and didn't even know that unconsciously. So I was
Mm.
navigating the world, surviving because, again, I wasn't accepted. As a child, I navigated a lot of bullying. So it was like that adapting was a survival mode. That following was a survival tactic. So, I find myself navigating the world like that. And, leadership landed on my lap because joining the military was a decision I made to, hey, my father, he worked in a bank for many years and he taught me a lot
Okay.
about financial literacy. And shout out to my parents because they also saw the opportunities in the United States, and that's one of the reasons why they brought me here, because they
Mm.
too were sacrificing and left everything that they had to bring us here for education and so on. So seeing all the things that their children were able to accomplish because of it, I just appreciate them for that. But I was going to college and I was like, I started to learn about the percentages and how much debt I would be in. And that's not something that your average college student is thinking about. I'm just like, I have to pay how much percentage back? How much student debt do I have? I said, oh no. So my friend talked to me about the Air Force. Well, actually, she talked to me about the military. So we checked out a few branches
Okay.
and I decided on the Air Force, joined, and within a couple weeks of being in basic training, there was like they said a urban legend that people who are tall, because I'm about 5'10", that people who are tall
Okay.
were chosen to be leaders. Well, it wasn't an urban myth; it was a fact. And here I am, 2 weeks within my time, and they're like, Airman Thomas, and I run up, sir, Airman Thomas reports his orders, sir. You have to do this like statement before you speak to, MTI, military training instructor. And he tells me I'm going to be a leader, be in a leadership role where I have to support and manage 9 other young women. And here I am thrown into leadership, and all I know is like God is positioning me to prepare me
Right.
for what I do today and for teaching. Because the interesting thing is, my mother told me, like, oh yeah, as a kid, you used to like call all your friends together and teach them. Hey, leadership development back when I was a kid, and I didn't.
That's just what you did, right?
So pretty much it was the military. I didn't realize that I was joining a leadership machine, is what I call it. Pretty much that's what they're
Mm.
about. As you move up, as you develop, as you move up in rank, they are sending you to leadership schools. They're embedding leadership
Mm.
principles. You're being placed into leadership roles. And although I was running and I was adapting to followership, I was in a space where they were embedding leadership, right? And that's the beautiful thing. If you want to be a
Right.
leader, you need to be in those environments. You want to be in those spaces that's talking about authenticity and really developing those skills with you so you can truly be functioning in those spaces where you can be effective in whatever your strengths are. So that's how I ended up in leadership, going from
Wow.
adaptability, trying to navigate and understanding how to be African in an American world. And then I end up in leadership,
Mm.
from like, hey, this is what we're about here. So hey, figure it out. And I figured it out. And I've been in for 18 years and I've been leading ever since those 2 weeks. Crazy, right?
Wow. Well, the crazy part is like you said, and I understand. Like you said, you were young and you probably had some leadership things there. But once someone actually puts you in that role and say, "Hey, you're going to lead this
Mm,
group," that kind of changes
yes.
things. It kind of, I'm sure, you may have had some questions. You probably had to think, "Am I capable
I
of
got
doing that?" Is
fired.
those the type of? Oh wow.
I
Okay,
got
talk about
fired.
it. Oh
So while
my.
I did it for 2 weeks. I think I might have I got put in the position in 2 weeks. I probably got fired within
Okay.
2 weeks. And the reason why is
Wow.
because I was in
Okay.
survival mode so much. I was afraid of
Mm.
confrontation. I wasn't
Okay.
developing their skills. So we would have like inspections and we had like wall lockers where we had to like have our beds a certain way. We had to have our clothes a certain way. So instead of teaching my other team members who were also the individuals I was supporting how to do it or fix this, I was doing it for them. I would get up early or they would go and they were doing other tasks. I was fixing it for them. And after a while, going through the hustle and bustle of basic training, I got tired. And I was like, man, I don't feel like getting up today
Mm,
to fix this stuff. I don't feel like, and I'm rushing out. And after a while, the MTI recognized, like, you guys aren't doing that well. And he fired me. So I had to watch someone else lead us. I had to
mm,
get in line, and that person became our leader. But it fueled something in me, and it fueled
yeah.
something in me, and I wanted another chance. And literally, once I got to technical training, because once you go through basic training boot camp, you now are going to a next phase of training where you're now I'm learning the technical skills depending on the job that you chose. And that I now started to volunteer for leadership role. And it's so funny, I was like, I'm going to fix this. And now I find myself now chasing leadership roles, and it was like
Wow.
nonstop since then. So I yes, I got fired my first time.
That is interesting. That's interesting. So wow. So that's interesting. So you took it as a challenge. And I'm assuming you took whatever was in front of you from a leadership perspective to learn how to develop and grow. I think you realized at this point that it wasn't just a natural thing. Just because I'm here, I'm leading. I think you realize, what do I have to do? What blind spots do I
Yes.
have to work on? What areas do I have to perfect in order to be a leader? Because ultimately now you've set the target, you set the goal that you wanted to be a leader. You had to do some perfecting of yourself. And it may speak to, I'm reading going back to your bio and reading to all of these tools and things that you've gone through and training you've gone through. It really speaks to the type of leader you really are. And you've definitely taken on many challenges. I'm looking at, you working on a master's degree and while doing other things. I'm like, wow, how does she do it? But I see it. It's really redefining yourself and constantly redefining yourself. Now, one aspect which you deal with is emotional intelligence. Now, I've heard this oftentimes and people have talked about it. What exactly is that when it comes to, especially when it comes to just in general, but when it comes to leadership, why is that important to
It's
have?
important to have because one of the things that we have to understand is emotional literacy is extremely important. So emotional intelligence, because one of the things is the way we first off learned about emotions was extremely ineffective. That's one of the things that I like to start off with whenever I do training on it, because what we don't realize is that emotions really do dictate our actions, our behaviors. The framework of it is there's an emotion, and then from that emotion, it now fuels a feeling. Feelings are pretty much the physical manifestation of an emotion. So for some people who get sad, some of them cry, right? Some people get angry, they
Okay.
turn red. So that's the physical manifestation. Now I'm feeling what I am emoting, right? This emotion. You can now see it. Now there's someone can say, okay, someone on the other side can now physically see it, and now your nervous system is kicking in, right? So that's the physiological aspect of it. So there's like an experience that happens. Now there's an emotion that's kicking in. Now you're seeing it, right? Now there's a physical reaction happening. I'm getting flustered. Someone might sweat. Someone might turn red. Someone might cry. And then after that happens the action. Now the action happens. So that might be in the word someone says in their response. That's when you see road rage situations happen. Someone yells out
Yeah.
something, someone steps on the gas and chases someone. So just imagine in a leadership role, right? If
Yeah.
you are, I always say it, if you don't have emotional intelligence, being self aware of how my emotions affect my actions, right? How they shape my actions. So, say you do have that road rage, right? You have had that experience, or you've been in traffic all day. You don't even navigate self awareness, or you don't have the emotional intelligence to recognize. Now you have showed up at work. You're that leader for the day. And now you're taking
Wow.
all that into the workplace. You're not speaking. You've taken that one moment, and it's turned into like a couple hours of frustration. That's why emotional intelligence is impactful. It can even affect your emotion. Excuse me, your decision making. Say you have had a ineffective call or a bad call with a client, or you have engaged in a conversation with a team member that was pretty intense. If you're not aware of how it affected you, how that emotion revved up that feeling, right? And again, you might not cry, but you might have some type of physical
Right.
response from it, right? That feeling of it, right? And now the thoughts start kicking in, and now some type of action is happening. Now, now it's affecting how your decision making, it's affecting your engagement, it's affecting how you're connecting with your team. And again, in a workplace, everyone is emoting. Everyone is feeling emotions.
Yeah.
Everyone is
Yeah.
feeling them. Everyone is thinking. Everybody is acting. All this is happening all in a team environment. And now it's affecting productivity. Now it's affecting how you're
Yeah.
interacting with each other, your clients, your customers, and so on. And again, a lot of people are like, keep your emotions away, not realizing emotions are a part of us. So whenever people say
Right.
to someone, "You're so emotional," I'm like, "You are too. You don't even realize you are too." And unfortunately,
Right.
our first teachers, our parents, our family members, whoever raised us, our community members, our friends, unfortunately, the way we were taught emotions was from happy, sad, angry, not realizing that there are a
Right.
ton of other emotions, not realizing that, again, these are things that are happening to us on a regular basis and they're affecting how we navigate the world, how we respond. And it's also affecting how we lead on a day to day basis. So it is so important to be aware and be emotionally intelligent so you don't recognize, so you're recognizing that, okay, I don't want my emotions to be in the driver's seat of my actions. I need to be in the driver's seat and learn how to navigate these real emotions and feelings I have so I can ensure that I'm leading effectively. I'm supporting my team effectively. I'm supporting, because again, I like to say leadership is self leadership. We have to be able to lead ourselves. It's leading
Right.
because you've chosen a role to lead, right? Because there's a, hey, role based leadership. Because we're all leaders, right? Because leadership is influence. And then there's the other part of leadership where we're leaders in home, at the home, in the household, right? Because
Right.
maybe you have a spouse, children, or maybe you're just in that role of brother, sister, whatever, right, within that household, and you're leading in the home. So I always look at it from those different frameworks. So that's why emotional intelligence is important. Recognizing it for self, and then recognize it from the aspect of others. So now you can influence and shift the room when you notice other people actions are affected due to
Mm.
emotion. So that's the power of a leader being emotionally intelligent for both sides.
I like that. So let's talk about that. I mean, we're in a whirlwind right now, and probably over the last few years, and we're going to dig into that a little bit. But let's talk about that. I've heard managers should be just a certain way. Do you think in this climate, in this day and time, emotional intelligence or being able to read the room, I don't know if that's the proper term, or being fluid and all that good stuff, should leaders be flexible in this day and time, or should they have their certain way? How should a leader role today?
Yeah. So there was a survey posted or revealed, or excuse me, distributed via LinkedIn, and there are a bunch of surveys that are always done, but they talked about employee well-being. I mean, it really
Okay.
revealed the major concerns of team members, and as leaders, we need to be aware of it because, again, we're considering the big picture. How is productivity? How is productivity affecting the bottom line? Because essentially, if it's about producing
Right.
results, whatever that goal is, we want to make sure those that are supporting the mission and vision, where are they, right? And what is the root cause of the issue? What are their concerns? How can we support them so we can essentially, support their needs so it can also support the big picture of productivity, team cohesion, whatever that is. And what it revealed is that, again, you have a lot of team members that are navigating burnout. There's also a season
Yeah.
of what they call the great resignation. A lot of people following
Right.
COVID decided to walk away.
Wait, is that a
Yeah,
real
it is.
thing? Is that really a
It is
real
a
thing?
real
Okay.
thing. Studies have
Okay.
shown there have been a lot of people who have walked away from their roles. And it's because, and
Okay.
of course, there are certain industries that have been hit more than others. So let's be clear of that. It has been like more of those service industries, hospitality industries. However, the pocket of industries for, again, you might have corporate industries, they have taken a hit as well. And the
Right.
reason why is that COVID really made, there were so many people in a function of autopilot, meaning get up, do this, do this, do this.
Had their
Yes.
routine. Yeah.
And COVID's made us pause and stop being in that space of at home with family, helping the kids do homework. It just made us pause. Like people were around
Right.
family more than like things they never were doing before. Things were revealed to them that they never recognized. That, man, I didn't know that I was quote unquote neglecting my family. I didn't know that I was
Right.
neglecting myself. I didn't know that I was such a workaholic. I didn't know that you needed this from me. I didn't know that I needed this for myself. I didn't know that, you know what, maybe I don't like doing this. So now when the workplaces started to open up and people had these revelations, they made these commitments to themselves, their spouses, when they maybe separated from maybe personal relationships or habits and so on. And now they're going back into the workplace, and now they have to get back into these routines again. They were like, I don't like this. I don't like that I don't have this balance. I made this promise to myself. I made this promise to my family. I made this promise to my children. I made this promise to me. I made this promise, and now this is going to get in the way. I'd rather be in a place that I can maintain a level of balance, or like Coach Kendall says, a rhythm, right? I want to be in a
Yeah,
place where I
yeah.
can maintain a balance, or I want to be able to make my own rules. So I'm going to pursue entrepreneurship, or I'm just going to retire early. So that's why you're seeing more individuals resign. You even saw an uptick because there was a women in workplace survey that was done. You saw more of an uptick in women leaving corporate, which also affected women in
Wow.
leadership roles, which was actually going up.
Okay.
Because again, now you were considering places that were closed, or being, mom and supporting them in school. They're like, you know what, I kind of like this, and there were a lot of shifts that happened too, in the household. So there were so many revelations that happened,
Yeah.
that going back to the workplace, they're like, hey, I'd rather work at an organization that is supportive for working virtually or having some type of hybrid schedule.
Yeah.
I'd rather work with a place that allows. So that's really what it was. A lot of individuals has had these revelations and recognize, I want to make a shift. I want to make a change. And as
Wow.
leaders, we do need to recognize and be more aware of the needs of our
Right.
team members. And that it was so beautiful. I got so many more calls from companies and organizations looking for either DE&I training or emotional intelligence, stress
Mm.
management, and so on, because they recognized that they needed to embed that, because a lot of individuals were stressed out, navigating anxiety because they were fearful
Yeah.
of getting COVID while at work. They weren't clear of the
It's a
yeah, it was
real
a real
thing.
thing.
Yeah.
So they started to implement more of those well-being related programming, support tools, bringing in those trainers to really help their team members navigate that. So I think that's why adaptability is one of the key components of leadership. We need to have it regardless, because we
Yeah.
never know what could happen to shake up everything within our companies,
Right.
from recessions to a pandemic. So yes, that is a key component within leadership.
I mean, this is a real topic here, and I mean, this is something that we're still going through, right? We're not even out of it. But so, with that question, I'm going to kind of forward your thinking a little bit. And since I got you here and you got this expertise, what do you see with this change and this disruption? And as you described it, the Great Recession. So people are rethinking things. Employees are renegotiating the terms of their contracts per se, right? They're trying to figure out, hey, how much more can I get, or how much time can I have at home? Everything is shifting right now. And you've mentioned it earlier about the remote work. Some people are wanting to really just say, hey, I like this working remote. How do I make this a real thing? With that being said, what do you see the future of work? How do you see work going in the future? Does this pandemic change things, speed things up to where the future of work is going? And with that, what is the leaders going to look like in the future? Are they going to still be the same, or is it going to be something different,
Well,
do
I
you
do
think?
definitely think that the future of the workplace does require change. Another thing that I really focus on too is the generational differences in the workplace, and leaders,
That's
yes, and
key. Yes.
organizations recognizing the shifts and the changes that are happening to meet the needs for their future leaders. I mean, you have Gen Zers
Yeah.
navigating ageism, when they have a wealth of knowledge, but they're bringing in the new, like a new age. Data information, so leaders and organizations, and maybe a population of baby boomers or Gen Xers that are need to know this information to understand, okay, this is what your future clients and your future leaders are going to need. You're going to need more diversity in your organizations, because this is the most diverse population, right? Most diverse generation.
Yeah.
They're going to be looking for that. They're going to be looking for, they are the generation that takes their leave. They are the generation
Yeah.
that you'll see a resume that has 4 or 5 positions on there, because they will leave an organization that doesn't meet their need. They, this idea of loyalty, regardless of though you don't, give me the raise I might deserve. This generation that says, I saw how my parents, my aunts, and uncles were treated,
Right.
and I'm going in knowing what I want. And if I'm not going to get the support I need, I'm going to transition. They're just navigating things a lot differently. So the idea of teleworking or having a hybrid schedule, yes, I think that is something that a lot of organizations are going to need to implement. And you're seeing that. You're seeing the Twitters and these other organizations, like the Nikes, are saying, like, we're going to have a down day that's focused on mental health, because you have a generation that talks about that more, right? Prior to
Right.
talking about mental health wasn't a norm, and being open to talk about mental health in the workplace or just out in the open wasn't the norm. So I do see the
Right.
future of the workplace being something that is more, it's different, right? That's more open to this type of dialogue, that's going to have more resources, that is structured differently, where there's more flexibility, recognizing that individuals can still get the work done in the workplace with the computer, have a couple days in the office, and have that flexibility, and how it's going to benefit the team member that's supporting that mission and vision. And that's ultimately what you're looking for. If it will support the team member, and it's going to help their productivity, it's going to help them connect, and it's going to build that company
Yeah.
loyalty so they'll stay there, then it's worth having. It is something worth looking at as well. So I think that it is something that a lot of companies are already embedding, and some companies are taking their time, because again, they're like, I don't like this. Does this really work? It will work. It just takes some like understanding, and just try it. Just try it and just test it out and
Right.
see. It's all in the data. The data will show you if it works. The data will show you who it doesn't work with. And those are the individuals you'll say, you know what? You need to come back into the office. I've done it. I've done it.
Come on
Come on
back.
back in.
Listen, I love what you brought. There's so many generations all working at once, and I get fascinated when every time someone talks about that, because there's so, I hate to label different groups, but there are differences in these groups, and what they want, and what they need, and they've been impacted by different eras of things that have happened. Obviously this COVID that is taking place is going to impact another generation. It's going to impact a younger generation coming up because of this impact. So I love what you're doing. So with that being said, as we're dealing with young leaders, right? I'm sure you probably talk to a lot of young leaders. What are the things that you're saying? Someone who's emerging leader, they're not exactly, maybe they don't have that title yet. Maybe they're a frontline leader, middle management leader. They haven't got up to that corporate space that they're looking for. What are some things that you're talking to them and coaching them through to get up to that place of leadership?
Just remain being authentically who they are, right? Because on the other
Mm-hmm.
side, I am doing the work to be that bridge builder. Because again, it's easy to go into a system and conform and think that you have to change who you are. So I do let them
Right.
know, yes, you are going into an entity, a structure that does a thing a certain way. And so telling, everyone, hey, you want to research and understand the culture and the company that you're going into. I tell anyone that goes into a position, okay, have you researched? Have you learned about them? What are your wants and needs? Because the reality is, a lot of us do go into a lot of roles and positions like pick me versus I choose you. Okay.
Right.
Again, a lot of us
That's
go
well
into
said.
roles and
Right.
positions. And again, they're great opportunities, but a lot of us go into positions
Right.
and roles like pick me versus I choose you. And sometimes we're not asking the
Right.
questions that we should ask to find out, is this culture and climate really going to fit my needs? Is it going to fit my needs? So based off of the code, like really research, find out, right? There's so many great sites like Glassdoor. There's LinkedIn where you
Mm-hmm.
can reach out to people and really learn about the industry and the places that you want to go to. And the more you start to understand and learn about these industries, corporate entities and spaces, the more that you'll start to say, you know what, okay, this might not fit my needs. Or again, we're going to all go through those experiences where we might end up in a company that we might not enjoy as much. But I also let them know, always look at these experiences as what lesson am I learning? Again, that's a cliche, but it's
Right.
reality. They're going to be.
Oh yeah.
I did a pre-recorded episode that I'll be posting in a couple weeks, and we talked about adversity for leaders and how it's good, because adversity does help us grow. Adversity makes us learn. It makes us work on our conflict resolution skills. It allows us
Yeah.
to be aware of our blind spots. And then it really makes us reflect and identify what areas we need to grow in, and also have that good conversation with someone else that we might see a blind spot in, to let them know, okay, this is things that you need to
Yeah.
grow in. So there might be some situations when that emerging leader, or that, I call them the generation of the future, that they end up in. But
Yeah.
what lesson can you learn? How can you apply that lesson for the next opportunity that you have, so you can continue to grow and develop? And even at your interview, you can use that as an example. What was a time that you experienced adversity, and what did you learn from that? Well, when I was at this last company, da 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 da,
Yeah.
right? So again, always looking for the growth opportunity, even if it's not the best situation. What have you learned,
That's
and then
good.
progressing from there. So again, start looking at opportunities prior to, and really seeing if there's a fit, and then looking for the lessons in those experiences, so you can take it on to the next opportunity.
Oh, I love how you said that. Definitely, obviously we do need to be not a perfect fit, but a better fit for the organizations that we go to. But I love what you said about, using adversity, and I'm not trying to diss a younger generation, but, this generation is the younger generation. They strive for perfection. They strive to get it right. They want to get it right the first time. And sometimes they may avoid the conflict. They may avoid the challenge. They may avoid the hard work is necessary in order to be, to do the thing right. And so what you're saying, hey, learn from that. Whatever experience that you have, learn from that so you can develop and grow, and it will build you along the way. Would you say, speaking still to those young leaders, it's probably a different day and time, but should they be taking roles or taking on roles for the money, or should they be taking on roles specifically for what that role can do for them? How are you coaching young leaders when presented with opportunities in front of them?
Definitely for the opportunities. If even if before they get into the corporate spaces, I'm like, what can you do even now within the community, within the spaces you have now, that
Hmm.
can develop within those skills? But yeah, there are going to be seasons
Yeah.
or opportunities that might not necessarily have a financial return, but there is still a return on the investment. There might be a volunteer or some type of like cohort you can join, something you can join, that will give you, maybe the return on the investment is relationships. Again, maybe it's knowledge, maybe it's experience. I mean, recognize that's going to
Hmm.
make you stand out. So just recognizing that, community service, it might expose you to other cultures, people with different background that you need to get around in. So when you end up in a space where you're around a diverse group of individuals, you're not like, oh my goodness, this is the first time I'm around a lot of diverse people. Because again, DE and
Right.
I is something that's important. But again, the beautiful thing is, this is a generation that has been around diversity. But
They
yeah,
have.
just so really looking
Yeah.
at opportunities more from, okay, the ROI isn't always financial. It is also
Okay.
relational. It also might be, again, educational. It might be these other pockets that I can learn from. And then also recognizing there will be times and seasons where it's like, show me the money, like, because you put in the work.
Right.
Yeah, because you put in the work,
Right.
you have the
Right.
expertise, and you, again,
Right.
I choose you. I know what I've done. I know my experience. I know what I have done to support myself and develop and be prepared for this. So having those moments where it's like, okay, yeah, no, I deserve this. I have done the work for this. So yes, being able to balance the two. But yes, there are going to be seasons where it's more service based in a sense, but you are getting a lot
Right.
back from it. So we have to remember that mindset as well. Even for us leaders that are at higher tiers, there are going to be some volunteer or opportunities where we're not getting financially, but we're getting rich in other ways.
Right.
Hmm.
Right. I love it, Aisha. This is, you can definitely tell in this conversation, you are definitely out to see people win. You're looking to develop people, in the space that you're in. You're really looking for organizations to win, right? You're providing tools, resources, giving them the tips that they need to really take it to the next level and really grow in the space that they're in. So with that being said, we're going to get out of here shortly, but how can people, follow you? I mentioned the podcast, but what are other ways that people can connect to you, follow the information you've got going on? How can people
Yeah,
connect
so
with
of
you?
course, miss my website, aishathomas.org, AISHATHOMAS.org. All my social media links are there: LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, even YouTube. I have a YouTube series. I'm doing a new one, actually. It's called Normalizing
Okay.
Emotion emotions daily. So this is a series that I'm going to be
Nice.
posting videos to really start to normalize. And so I'm educating people on emotional literacy, explaining to them what emotions are, and introducing them to different emotions, right? Ones that are outside of the three: happy, sad, and angry. I'm going to be talking about different scenarios. So it's going to be really just guiding them through this process of emotional literacy. I have a leadership development, why you need leadership development, because again, we have business leaders as well that don't invest in leadership
Right.
development. They want to learn how to get the bag, they want to learn how to like make more money. And I'm just like, you need to learn leadership development, because again, you have leaders leading with a lack of emotional intelligence, and because of that,
Right.
their business is broken down, or they're having team issues and they're not doing team development, or they're even navigating some internal related issues and they have to get past that. No, work
Yeah.
on your leadership development. Where's your line item for that? So I have a why you need leadership development series, a team development series about things that common issues that teams have. So again, all on my YouTube page, and of course I have my podcast, Leader Set Trends. I have some books, but again, my website, aishathomas.org, is like the connect to
All there.
everything, as well. And social media is at Miss Aisha Thomas. So that's how you connect with me.
Wow. Awesome. Now, before I get out of here, I gotta have this random question. I
Ooh,
always do this,
random.
and this was very
Okay.
random. And when I say random, it's random.
Okay.
So I realized at one point you were into a little
Oh
boxing,
Lord.
right? Right. So you gotta tell me, you gotta tell our audience who inspires you in boxing. If you could get in the ring, who would you get in the ring with? You got to tell us who inspires you in boxing, and who would you love to get in the ring
Oh my
with? Now, did I get that right? Did I
No,
get
no,
the
you're
wrong?
right. You're right. So yes, ladies and gentlemen. So I was an aspiring MMA fighter one time. Yes, I know it sounds great. Yes,
Oh
I was.
wow,
So,
wow.
um,
Okay, hold on. Let me expand that question
oh
beyond boxing.
no,
So yes, a fighter, right?
yeah. So interesting thing is, remember back pay-per-view, $50. So
Yeah.
again, Migrant, but again, one of the things that my parents always got, or my family purchased, were the Mike Tyson fights. Those were fights they always purchased with
Okay.
Mike Tyson.
Okay.
And I was fascinated. I found myself as a little girl
Hmm.
fascinated by Mike Tyson. I thought it was fascinating what he did. And I found myself wanting to do boxing. I was like, I want to be like Mike, but not Michael Jordan, but Mike
Wow.
Tyson.
Right,
Yeah. So
Mike
as I
Tyson.
as I
Wow. Okay.
started to grow up, I also found myself really gravitating towards martial arts. I just liked martial arts movies and so on. Jackie Chan movies, when they came on, I would watch them. So it was like a merge
Okay.
of those two. So my parents couldn't afford me going to a martial arts studio. So once I got into my 20s and had my own job, I invested in myself, and
You actually
I
did
actually
it.
invested and I started to train in martial arts and boxing at the same time. And yeah, it took me into competing and everything. So yeah,
Were you pretty good? Can
I have a world
you?
championship.
Is there some? Okay. All right. All
Yeah, I
right. That
won.
is so
Yeah,
awesome.
I
That's
won
so
a world
awesome.
championship for the United States overseas. So yeah,
Wow,
I did. I
wow.
did.
Well, shout outs to you. Right, that just means, hey, don't nobody get in the ring with her
Ah,
without preparing.
I miss it. I do miss it. But yeah, that was something
Yeah.
I pursued. So yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, we really enjoyed this conversation. I think this is a topic, especially for so many individuals that are emerging leaders, for actual leaders right now that are in that leadership seat right now. Some of the things that were mentioned today, the emotional intelligence, just understanding certain things. We can be so many years in leadership, and there's still things that we can do to refine our leadership to be better, to get better. And in some cases, you may have to ask someone and sit down with some individual that can help you analyze your skill and your leadership skills, so that you can take it to the next level. And so I think this conversation was definitely on point, because I believe most of you that are listening to this Behind the Grind podcast, you are leaders. And so what better way to talk about the things that really will make you better and stand out if you want to be the best leader in your field, in your profession, in your occupation, whatever that may be. It's always learning, going to the school and developing and getting better and better. And things change with time. You know, leadership things that worked a few years ago, the principle may be still solid, but things change as people and things evolve. And it's important to constantly build yourself in that space. So with that being said, you know, definitely follow the links, the social media site. Most importantly, catch her on her podcast, a Leaders Set Trend podcast, I believe, and you'll get some more nuggets from my girl. She's definitely in the space of building leaders, next generation leaders and current leaders in that space. So with that being said, we hope you enjoyed our conversation today. If you found something that was beneficial, please share this episode. And also, if you love, this is your first time listening to Behind the Grind, please subscribe, like us, follow us, and get that notification for the next episode that we'll have coming out. So with that being said, until the next time, this is Sherrod, and this is Behind the Grind.